right, well, thanks, Jim. It's been great to be here today. Encouraged by Jill Christensen, so you could blame her for this. I want to introduce you to myself. This is my lovely wife, Diana Levy. She's actually joined me on today's webinar today. And I thought it'd be really appropriate because, you know, what else happens on a normal business day in COVID but mask-wearing bobbleheads running your Zoom meetings? And the great thing about bobbleheads is they can actually also go upside down, and that's not a special effect. They actually are upside down. But anyway, as Jim said, thanks everybody for coming and being part of today's discussion conversation. I think you'll get a lot out of it. I'm not going to do the speaking and presenting today. I think the sort of expertise from Jill Christensen, will be come through, and the experiences in terms of, well, how do you take these ideas and principles and really apply them in a real world setting, and how they can then come to life is what today's, predominantly about. That having been said, I always like to sort of do a bit of a positioning statement and have us together at the sort of same, I guess, mental point of view and perspective, and that is, we're really interested on the work proud side on this question of accessing discretionary effort, and that discretionary effort defined by the delta between, the two employees who otherwise, for all intents and purposes, are equal. Similar background, similar age, similar demographics, similar training, similar education, similar tools, but the performance, productivity, and output of one is greatly different than another. And the question becomes, one, is that a consequential delta that from an HR strategy standpoint one should care about, i.e. what is the productivity deltas that you can get from somebody who is applying their discretionary effort, making the greatest effort that they can to being successful in their relative job role and function, relative to the alternative, which is I'm doing the minimum so I don't get fired. And our data experience says, one, the delta is significant and substantial, and two, the cost and approach for realizing or capitalizing on that discretionary effort is not only inexpensive, but is also a significant blind spot, something that we think companies should spend a lot more time rationalizing and then applying the corresponding resources. For if one thinks, about the human being and the totality of it, and how we as employers look to create employee experiences, we build a base pay model for them. We have some, incentive or bonus or spot pay. We have a benefits insurance plan for them. We might be interested in doing some wellness components attached to them. We might have some career pathways that show how they sort of develop and evolve. But the question is, and it relates to the discretionary effort and today's topic, which is, if your heart's not in it, you're a bobblehead. That's my son Lewis, by the way. Meaning you're doing the job, but you're not really behind it. And we're saying if you want to access that discretionary effort, you think that that's got a meaningful delta and something that is inexpensive to access, it just requires a commitment to it. Then we're saying, hey, you got to really take your approaches to recognition and your sort of employee experience engagement strategies a lot more seriously than at least a lot of companies do. And so to that end, I want to bring Jill and a good close friend and old client, colleague, Philip Altschuler, to share both their perspectives and experiences in a Q&A session. So thanks very much for the opportunity to share these things with you. And Jill and Philip, thank you very much. I'll pass it to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. So I always like to start at the beginning, which means ensuring that everybody is on the same page as to what culture really is. So simply put, culture is how we do things here. So although a lot of people think that culture change is difficult, it's really not. If you think about this, if culture change is how we do things here, in order to change your culture, you simply need to do things here differently tomorrow than you're doing here today. And when you've got that, you've got culture change. And when we speak to employees around the globe and ask them, what are some elements of a great workplace culture? One of the first things they mention is employee reward and recognition. And I can't tell you how much that's music to my ears, because recognition is so incredibly important. It adds humanity into the workplace. It creates a way for direct feedback for individuals and teams. We know that it lowers stress levels and frustration. It increases job satisfaction, and it also causes people to feel proud of their accomplishments and proud of their workspace. However, as you can see in this next chart, we've got a conundrum going on here, a tale of two cities. Jim, thank you so much, Jim. On one hand, we've got a lot of valuable data and opportunities to ace recognition, but on the other hand, it appears that we might be squandering some of them. So let me explain. So in this first green bar, according to a study conducted by the York College of Pennsylvania, 95% of millennials say they not only want reward and recognition, but they want immediate recognition for their accomplishments. People are absolutely clamoring for it, which is a great thing. Recognition is a hot commodity. This means time is of the essence when it comes to showing your gratitude. It's critical that you let people know now instead of later that they've done a great job, because that extra bit of morale does wonders in terms of boosting your engagement and your bottom line. So right now, we're all good. Recognition is something that people want and something that we can provide. In the second bar, we see that according to Burson and Associates, 87% of employees would be more engaged if they were recognized more often. By lifting people up and acknowledging their contributions, you'll also create a sense of pride in your workplace, and employees who are proud work harder, longer, smarter, giving you a leg up on the competition. So this is great news again. If you step up rewards, your people will beam with pride and give you their blood, sweat, and tears versus their scraps. So right now, the story is still good. People want recognition and say it would catapult their individual engagement. Great news. In bar 3, we learned that according to Socialcast, 69% of employees would work harder if they felt their efforts were better appreciated. So think about when you were in grade school and you got a gold star on your book report. There's no doubt that that made you feel proud and pushed you to work harder in the future to get another gold shiny star. Well, it works the same exact way for adults too in the workplace. So the positive story continues to improve. Not only would employees be more engaged with more recognition, but they say they would work harder. Beautiful. Then in the final green bar, according to Psychometrics, 58% of employees say that giving more recognition would improve the overall employee engagement score in their company. It's a well-known fact that employees are not feeling valued at work. Only 34% of American workers say they are engaged, and that number is even lower around the globe at 15% across all organizations in all industries. But the majority of employees agree that we can improve this by ramping up employee rewards and recognition. Validation absolutely has the power to drive productivity through the roof. So right now, the picture is still looking really great. All of these benefits can be realized simply by having a laser-like focus on employee recognition. However, although we have all of this powerful data that shows the wonderful things that would transpire if we recognized employees early, often, and effectively, the red bar hits us with a sad dose of reality. According to GloboForce, only 14% of organizations provide managers with the necessary tools for effective rewards and recognition. 14%. This is like in the gutter, right? Boo hicks. So although we could be arming managers with a solution and setting them up for success, in many companies, organizations simply are not grasping that opportunity. So suffice to say, if you want to ace employee rewards and recognition and increase pride and engagement, you've got to create a culture of rampant recognition in your organization where everybody is able to give out those gold stars and recognize everyone else. And the easiest way to do this is to automate recognition by leveraging technology to your fullest advantage. And in this day and age, it's also an expectation of your employees. So if you think about this, people have been trained at the consumer level to have an amazing online experience, right? Think about how simple it is to go to Amazon and order toilet paper or order whatever it is that you need. And nowadays it's showing up not only within 2 days, many times within 1 day. That is what your employees are expecting at the consumer level. And that is what your employees expect in the workplace as well. So when you set out to create a culture of pride and engagement, finding the right technology partner is a critical step, as reward and recognition technology will absolutely help you fast track your journey. And someone who knows a thing or two about this is joining us today. And so I am so delighted to be sharing the virtual stage with Philip Altschuler, an executive at Gables Residential, which is an award-winning leader in the multifamily industry with more than 31,000 US apartment homes. So Philip, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your amazing recognition journey at Gables. Gables is not in the 14%, so kudos to you for that. And I know that our attendees would love to hear your thoughts about your successful recognition journey.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to share my story today. And it's fun to see those results. We've actually been focused on changing the entire employee experience. We used to have a bunch of different systems, and we've tried to condense them so it's more like the experience they have going to an Amazon or Instagram, simple, straightforward. And one of the things we really like about WorkProud is it provides that around recognition. Mm-hmm. With that said, I need control of the slide. There we go. Not sure. Okay. So why is recognition important? You know, first of all, recognition is important because I think people are generally critics. Any of you that's ever worked in a restaurant know that when you go to another restaurant or to a hotel and you're waiting for service, you tend to see what's wrong more than what's right. We're no different at Gables. We've got apartment homes, they're spread out, and it used to be that, you know, senior folks would come and do site visits to make sure the quality of the product was high, and our on-site teams would work really hard cleaning for several days to make sure the place was perfect. Unfortunately, because our leaders, most of them grew up in the industry, starting at that community manager or even leasing agent position, they instantly know what to look for that's not right versus what is right. And so what they did was they would point out everything that was wrong and then leaving those teams deflated and frustrated because there was no recognition of all the time and effort. You know, 97% of the stuff was perfect, and they found 3% wrong, and that's all they would talk about. And so what we realized is we have to change that culture. We have to change and focus on what people are doing right and recognizing them, because the best way to get people to continue to do things that you want them to do is to reward them and recognize them for those efforts.
You know, Philip, you make an excellent point, because unfortunately, I think it's really human nature to look at what's missing, what we've done wrong, what we haven't accomplished, versus really zeroing in on how far we've come. And so to your point, you have to be deliberate, right, about creating that workplace culture where you first go to the place of looking for what's right versus what's wrong, because it goes against human nature.
Yeah, another thing is at Gables, we're a really decentralized organization. We have 109 communities. And so we've got teams at each community. Some as few as 2 people, some as many as 20 to 30 people. And then we have 7 regional offices with the executive team. The leaders are always traveling. The likelihood that someone is going to be at the right place at the right time to catch someone doing the right thing and recognize them is pretty remote.
Exactly.
And so we had to figure out a way to make it more of a ground up effort where maybe a peer could recognize someone and then the manager is notified so they can then go in and reinforce it with their own kudos and you know, make the person recognize that or realize that their efforts are being recognized and that they're being appreciated.
Yeah. So Philip, who in your organization pinpointed that this was a problem and pointed it out that potentially it would be in your best interest and in the interest of your tenants to embark on an experience and a journey at Gables?
I would love to take credit for it. But I think it was a really a collective amount of feedback we got from both employee surveys. We did a weekly pulse survey, and one of the components was recognition. And, you know, people just kept pointing out that they didn't feel valued or appreciated for what they did. Also, I've got some folks on my team that play a regional role, and because we've got such high touch positions with the employee population, you could hear. Usually, it wasn't what was said, because people rarely will complain they didn't get recognized. It's what wasn't being said, and they would focus on, you know, that they don't feel like it's our tagline is taking care of the way people live, taking care of the way you live, and we say that extends to the employees. And they would constantly say they don't feel like we really take care of them.
Interesting.
So we had to kind of go and do a little diagnosis, ask some questions, and really start to stick a pin in it. We had and I know this kind of leads out, but we had plenty of recognition programs, but none of them were immediate, consistent, or transparent enough to know why some people were getting recognized while weren't.
Yeah.
And so that made it a challenge.
But to your point, you recognized that you had a problem and you put a solution in place. So we'd love to hear about your experience at Gables and what you did.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to start back. This is in 2016, because that's when we went live. I think it was August of that year. Prior to that, we started to do kind of a analysis of our existing programs, and they were all paper-based programs. Most of them had employee of the quarter, year, you know, and it usually had the title in there. So it was leasing associate of the month, leasing associate of the quarter, of the year, etc. We had a corporate office person of the quarter as well. And it was always funny trying to pick them. People would hand in submissions, we'd get on a call, and we would say, well, who do you think? Well, I don't know, who do you think? Well, they got it last time, so we can't pick them. Who do you think this time? And so we would go through this process, but it felt kind of popularity based. Is even though people were doing great things, you would have a lot of people that did great things. You only recognized one of them. And the one you recognized, rarely did they even know why they got recognized. They just knew they won.
Think about how crazy that sounds, right? Looking back on it, one person got recognized a quarter.
Oh yeah.
Where are you going with that?
Yeah. And then we also had, we have 7 key regions, and in those regions, we held a big event called the Spotlight Awards. We held it one day a year, usually in February or March. Got rescheduled a bunch of times because of weather in the DC area where and that was the event where we would recognize a whole bunch of people at an in-person event. We would rent out a hotel room or a hotel ballroom or some sort of a hall. Took a lot of planning. There were, you know, a bunch of awards at each location. They were always themed, and there were a lot of. The problem was if you did something really good in March, you weren't recognized until next February when we had this event.
Wow. And you know what, Philip, it runs even deeper, because I've read a statistic that between 80 and 84% of organizations only recognize for tenure. And if you think about it, they don't recognize for tenure every year, but probably 5, 10, 15, right? And so you might be in an organization where you've got to wait 5 years to be told that your accomplishments are appreciated. And when you think about the detriment, right, that causes on a person's engagement level, their level of pride, their desire to go above and beyond the call of duty and give you discretionary effort, it's amazing to me.
Oh yeah, and poor performance is like cancer. It spreads very quickly, because if folks see that you're not really recognized for the hard work you do, and people get away with doing less and they get the same, well, I can do that. That's easy.
Exactly.
It's always easier to do less than do more.
Yes.
With regards to transparency, you know, whenever you've got an award that is Employee of the Quarter, Employee of the Month kind of awards, nobody knows why you got it. And we felt like that was an issue. It's hard to replicate a behavior that you don't know is being rewarded. The program doesn't drive specific behaviors. This is my favorite one. We had a program called the Gables Circle of Excellence, and these are the top leasing people in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
And so through the year, they would compete, and the top people, the top 10 would get selected, they would win money, and they would get invited on a trip. Like, it was a big deal. The only problem was we never told any of them how many sales they had or how many sales anyone else had.
Wow.
So they were surprised that they won. It's hard to drive a behavior with sales when you don't know what the scorecard is.
Absolutely. And then also, I remember growing up in corporate America, and if you didn't have a robust employee engagement, reward and recognition program for all of your workers, there was always so much angst the month that the sales team got to go to Hawaii, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like this big issue in the company because other people in other organizations didn't have the ability to reward and recognize. But every year, 100 people were handpicked to go on this amazing trip with their spouse for a week, and that just caused so many problems inside of the organization.
Yeah, the other part about that is the employees who are working at communities or in regions,
Mm-hmm.
they know who's a higher performer, even though the managers or supervisors, because they're not always there, don't. So we would have these events, and there would be, that undertow of negativity around why one over another person.
Yeah.
The poor administration, tracking, and communication is, they're all paper-based, and there wasn't one central control point. So every time there was an audit, we were trying to chase down different, who were the winners. A lot of it was point presentations controlled by 7 different administrative people in 7 different regions in positions that turn over. So if I want to go back and know who won last year or the year before, it is not easy. It's
wow.
It's a call to IT, and they're trying to mine old emails accounts to find those PowerPoints around a specific date range. It was not clear. Same with record keeping. Same. We had, for our corporate folks, we had an end of year process, and because you could nominate anyone in the office in the region, we had to aggregate all this data. We actually had to hire a consultant to help us crunch all this data to select 7 winners. And it took him a lot of time. Like, it was Excel spreadsheets trying to figure out, because, in a region, you can have several hundred people who are doing this. And it was all essentially emailed. So you had to send them all the emails. They had to go through, break it all down, and pick it. And, when you've got no single administrator or point of contact, and, turnover in the positions where people do have some control, it's very hard to go back and evaluate this. And this became, as we were looking at changing the program, and to get data of how we did it, what the costs were, what the impact was, not just the hard dollar awards, but the cost of the events, the cost of administration, the cost of leakage, of having, we would give time off with pay cards, and there were people who were redeeming them. We had no idea where they got 30 cards. They got picked up out of a desk somewhere, and we couldn't account for them. All that, it was a nightmare trying to get all that data together.
This all sounds like a massive issue. So how did WorkProud come to the rescue?
I'm glad you asked that. So we met, and we formed a task force with representation from all the different functions: accounting, payroll, because there's tax implications, the HR folks, our training folks with regards to rolling this out, as well as specific, our development team, our I think I said operations, but operations. We wanted to make sure that whatever we created would actually be seen as something that was valued. And one of the goals was to create this platform where there'd be a lot of recognition, not once a year, but recognition every day. Not all of it had to have points, because you can get thanked for something and feel good about it, but we also have something where we could award points. And the goal is to make these points a social currency, have you, at the company. So any award, $1,000 or less, would be awarded in points. And we gave people a wide range of abilities to redeem these points. Time off with pay, which is really good if you're new and don't have a lot. Cards, merchandise, experience, all that stuff. If you didn't need time off with pay, we have some folks that have worked for the company for 30 years. They get 6 weeks of, they get 6 weeks plus they get extra time plus tenure. They get all this time off. They don't want more time off. They can barely take what they have. So we wanted to create this program that would give something for everyone, regardless of who they were in generation or in tenure.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really love about it is that it enables you to give people experiences. And I just completed the Yale online course, The Science of Happiness. And it really talks about the fact that what we believe is going to make us happy doesn't make us happy. So we might think that material things, a perfect body, having tons of money is going to make us happy. But in truth, one of the things that makes us the most happy are experiences, because then we have those memories that we can look back to. So the fact that you brought those into Gables is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. If there's an option to make perfect body as part of this, I want to, I'm going to wait for that. That would make me happy.
Plastic surgery points.
Oh yeah, and one of the unique, so a couple things with regards to experiences. You're absolutely right, and we had some fun with videos and stuff promoting it, where you can drive a race car, you can go on a sailboat, you can even take ninja lessons. That's one of the. So really, there truly is something for everyone. And what's nice is, and what we see, where if your rewards are added to someone's check, which is what we used to do before, invariably a person will spend it on groceries or rent or just their livelihood. It's just the way it is. And if they don't want to, usually their spouse will make them, because it's just extra money. When you give it in here, it becomes kind of a piggy bank. And we have no expiration on these points. I'll tell you why is we have a unique program at Gables. It's a sabbatical program. Employees that work 10 years with the company get a 6-week paid vacation. And then after that, they get another 6-week paid vacation. So
are you hiring?
Oh, yeah, of course. Gables.com careers. What happens is, people at the top, they can afford to take 6 weeks off, right? You're getting your regular paycheck and they've got money to go and take a trip. But some of our, folks who work on site, who are living more paycheck to paycheck and using that money to pay bills, they get a nice 6-week break, but it's more of a staycation than a vacation. So by not putting a expiration on points, I actually encourage employees to save up these points and then cash it in you can do it for travel, hotels, cruises, airline, all that stuff. So you not only get a great amount of time off, but you get the trip of your lifetime at the same time. It really makes it kind of cool.
That's amazing.
You can see on the screen, so at Gables, I mentioned we're very decentralized. Everybody's on the move. We have the positions I'm talking about are people who lease apartments, manage apartments, and fix apartments. We have a wellness program called Virgin Pulse, and where you track steps. We always have challenges. Our maintenance guys have hundreds of thousands of steps. They're never sitting still, which means they're never sitting in front of a computer. So we have the ability to give them mobile access to the platform. So you don't have to be computer in the moment. When you see something or when you notice something, you can go in and you can give recognition right away, which is great. We see it all the time. It's wonderful.
Fantastic.
And yeah, not only can you give and receive recognition through the mobile app, but we now have the ability to also redeem points. So again, you don't need to sit in front of a computer, and you've got the full experience, which is good. And it's really important for our workforce, who is both 80 something, I think it's close to 90% millennial and Gen X, and a very mobile group.
Exactly. So how did this all land on everyone? Let's talk about the results. Because at the end of the day, it's really important that we recognize people to get the most out of them. But at the bottom line, if you think about how you sell this to senior leadership team, right? Senior leaders love data. They're going to want to see that their investment is getting a great ROI, and I know that you've achieved that.
Oh yeah. So like I mentioned before, we do a lot of employee experience surveys. We did it through a program that was weekly. We just went to quarterly, but it's very important to us what employees think and feel, because the way you improve retention, and for us, your social reputation really is so important, because it drives your ability to hire great people and retain them. We wanted to make sure that the program was achieving its objectives. First thing was, I mentioned that we had one day per year in each region events, and collectively across the country, that equaled to about 140 employees out of 1,000 that would get recognized per year. Now, it's not bad, as a total number, but, I always like to say we had, there were a lot of good people nominated for awards, but only one best. And so if you're a runner-up and get nothing, it's still, you're a loser.
Exactly.
And you don't want to treat your highest performers like losers, because if you do, they're going to go somewhere where they can feel like they're a winner.
Exactly.
So why not recognize all of them all the time on a consistent basis, so they always feel good about what they're doing, and they always know, what's important. And by the way, I didn't mention this before, but one of the biggest changes around transparency is we actually changed from, that best of mentality to people tied to the values of the company. And so very clearly there's these 8 values. Brand ambassador is one. Innovation is one. Leadership, mentorship. And so as people do these things, you can click on one or more, and everyone can see what values people get recognized for. Then it ties to the story, so you can see what exactly they did, what the person that gave them the recognition tied it to. Now, what you don't see is how many points were awarded. Unfortunately, if I give you, Jill, 500 points, and I give Michael 300 points, then you get back to well, why does he get 500? It actually devalues the value of the point, because one feels good and one feels bad. So we just have the recognition that's very public. Everyone in the company sees it. It's a rolling feed, like you would see on Facebook or like you'd see on Instagram. All of them are tied to, animated Giphies, animated things, which are always cute and engaging. And it's funny, we kind of got the ball rolling. But now people just post every day on their own. It's very organic. It's always people recognized. And what's nice about that is, I told you we've got some 2-people communities. Well, if you work in a 2-person community, your overall perspective of Gables is very small. Right? You only see that, and you might see your region, but you certainly don't see the totality of this bigger company. But on Gables Ovations, which is our work proud site, you get a sense of, wow, there's a lot always going on, and this company really does take care of people and really does recognize people for what they do.
Exactly. And what I love about this is, you spoke earlier about the fact you need to really think about what's important, right? What matters to us. And that's what you need to recognize on. I have tons of organizations come to me and say, Jill, we want to launch a recognition program, but we don't know what to recognize. Our managers are lost. And that's when I go back to recognize what you want to see more of, right? Your values are the tenets of your culture. They describe how we operate, who we are, what we believe in. So always when you can pin your recognition program around your values, around your culture, and the behaviors that you want to see more of, you're just going to, when you reward and recognize people for that, they're going to be doing more of that behavior. And you're just going to further instill that amazing culture with those strong values. So it's a fantastic model.
Thank you. We also tied it to our performance management system. And so
Beautiful.
what happens is any recognition that goes through with 5 or less people, it automatically flows through into, we use Workday, into a folder in Workday. So each quarter, we do quarterly check-ins. Each quarter, you don't have to struggle to remember what great things you did. You can click on it and all those recognitions pop up and can become part of the check-in.
I love that. So what are your people saying? How has this landed on your associates?
Well, I'm not going to read all these, but people like it.
Got it. Well, gosh, you went from 140 to 11,000. I would think people like it.
Oh yeah. So we always people, when you ask them, what do you love about the company? They'll say, the award-winning training programs. They'll say, recognition is always one of the top scoring items in the surveys. We don't do everything right, but recognition, we do really well.
Well, that's fantastic. And again, I think a real reason that you do it well is because you found a technology partner who does it well, right? And so I think that's critical. There are so many organizations out there who want to ace recognition, but they're still doing things manually, or they don't have programs that are based off of their values, or they don't offer experiences, like things that really matter to people. And so, clearly this has impacted your employees. And how has it impacted your business?
Employees now know what it takes to win. I'll tell you. So when COVID happened, I think it threw everyone for a loop. And we run apartment homes, so you can imagine it was a double whammy. When everyone is now working from home, our people can't, because we are the home, right?
Exactly.
We still have to implement protocols to protect people. We're sending people in our corporate offices to work remote. We've got even our on-site community managers. We were really doing what we could to promote social distancing and all those pieces, but you still want to reward, recognize, and sales is still important. We still have to lease apartment homes. As people are losing their jobs, it can't just contract. So, but we went to a virtual leasing model. So, a great story is we rolled out a virtual leasing training and then a virtual leasing contest. We launched it with a video because I love videos. And the person the people that had the highest number of leases won prizes, the highest occupancy won prizes, the highest number of move-ins won prizes. And we promoted it region by region to try to drive it. The fact that we could do that so quickly through WorkProud was unbelievable, because you instantly have leaderboards, you instantly have everything you need, so people know how their contributions make a difference and they know what they're going to win. And I didn't mention before, but we got rid of the invisible sales leaderboard where no one knew what they did. And we replaced it with a quarterly contest, because when it resets every quarter, you don't give up if someone's winning. Every quarter chance. And depending on how many apartment homes are broken into categories, we'll say small is 0 to 224 units, medium is 25 to 325, large is over 325. And then we've got something called lease ups. Those are new properties, 4 different buckets. They each have their own competition nationwide. And when any of our salespeople log into the system, the first thing they see is where they are in the rank relative. So if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 50, how many move-ins you have versus everybody else. It's tied directly to our property management system, so it's updated daily. So you don't have to know how you're doing. There's it's a real transparent, and that drives behaviors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the goal with recognition is always, if you're investing money, right, your real ROI is how do you drive the behaviors you want to drive for the money you're investing. I didn't think the old programs really drove any behaviors.
Exactly. And to the point, so you have found an amazing new program, but it's also critical for our listeners to understand that it's not just about recognition as a program, right? That is a piece that fits into your overall employee engagement experience. So if you can talk a little bit about, do you have an overarching strategy that your rewards and recognition program fits nicely into? How are you managing that?
So I'm not sure I'm going to answer this the way you want me to, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
We have a integrated HR program. So our wellness efforts, sales efforts, recognition efforts, performance, all of it ties back, and each program connects with the other program. So people who participate in our the Virgin Plus platform and do the cards and walk steps and participate in challenges and get on, we've got these scales that do a whole body scan. If you do those things, you're rewarded in Gables Ovations points, which you can use for any of the things I discussed. The recognition you get flows into performance, right? Recognition, all these things pull together. And again, because it's one consistent message, it's real easy for employees to get how they get recognized and feel constantly recognized for their contributions.
Yep, that's excellent. And you've been on this journey for quite some time, right? And we know that you had something that was obsolete, something that wasn't working for you, and now you've got something that's amazing. You're hitting the ball out of the park. And I know just from being in business for the decades that I have, many times there are amazing lessons learned, right? So there are things that you don't know what you don't know. So what did you learn along the way? If you had to give a piece or two of advice to an organization that's stepping into this for the first time, what could you tell them so that they could avoid potentially some of the pitfalls that you may have tripped you up?
Sure. This was a huge change to the organization that believed it was really important to bring people together, because having someone in an audience clap for you, not having that would be really missed, and we would lose the value of the recognition. It wasn't in person, but those events were costly. So one of the things I would tell anyone is you got to have stick-to-itiveness. You're going to hear no a lot and hear reasons why it's not going to work and reasons why it doesn't make sense and reasons why you can't do it. Some of the barriers were budget. We had a budget for recognition, and as of February, let's say, or early March, we had blown that entire budget. So how do you start a new program with no budget? That's a big challenge. What we did there is we rolled out the program as just social recognition, no points, and told everyone that we're making sure the program, it's like a pilot, and then points the next budget year. So we launched in August, we got it through December, just getting people comfortable with the system. And it's actually good we did, because we realized that employees could give recognition to everyone in the company by accident.
Absolutely.
With one click. And if you were doing the points, that would be a problem, right?
Yeah, but that's an excellent way to start, right? So you don't necessarily need to have an enormous budget or funding pool for rewards. And so as you were making the decision about how to move forward, what were the key factors, if you will, that caused you to pick Work Proud?
I will. The other big thing I would tell you was a miss is when I told you it was very difficult to get all those numbers together, and we got them all together. And I said, this is our budget. What I didn't realize is they had grossed up all those awards. So the budget we actually spent was much bigger.
Wow. Okay.
So we actually did it for the lower non-grossed up dollars. And I wish I had known that, because it would have been a different selling point. So we actually looked at a number of potential partners. There's plenty of companies in the space that offer this. But when I sat down, I always like to say, build it and they will come. I would go and I said, I need to have a sales contest, and that would rule out most of them, because they don't offer, they offer kind of a, I call a container for your program, and you make your program fit their container. And the problem with that is you have to give up a lot because their container may not really fit your program. Their container fits everyone's program, and it's cookie cutter. And what they do is they really let you customize your logo. Maybe a couple of minor things, but generally the program is the program.
Mm-hmm.
When I came across WorkProud, we really had an open palette to paint the program we wanted. So we did a sales contest. We could do other things that we thought would engage our workforce and be different than everyone else. And so, as we started, even the look and feel of it is very different than the clients they already have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so your experience, I would love you to sum that up in a handful of words, adjectives. And I know we didn't plan this, but when you think about the experience that you have with a person, with a product, with a company, it's these words just pop into your mind because the experience is so prevalent and so positive.
Yeah, I would say they are creative, hardworking, fun to work with, helpful. There are plenty of times where we call them, we say we need something, responsive. I wouldn't be on here if I didn't think the world of them. They do a great job. Not just, a lot of times you buy something and it's not, the difference between heaven and hell, heaven is what you get in a sales presentation and hell is implementation and usually the relationship after that. That's not the case. They are what they say they are. They deliver what they promise.
That's phenomenal. And so our last discussion question before we get to the audience Q&A, HR professionals are busy, finance people are busy. If they could only spend a small portion of their time dedicating it to something that would really matter and give a great ROI to the organization, where, in your opinion, does recognition rank?
I think recognition ranks very high because it touches everyone. There's not one employee that you have that doesn't want to feel like what they do matters and doesn't feel appreciated for the work they do. I always go back to when I was younger, if you'd go on you're in the dating world, you would start dating and you're, open the doors and you buy flowers, but then over time you stop doing all that. And as in the beginning, we woo people to hire them, and then we stop. It's not like we buy them flowers and we we maybe do some tenure award. Yay, once a year you give them something.
Once every 5 years.
But nowadays, every company in the world is out trying to poach your people through LinkedIn, through Glassdoor, through Indeed. They're getting wooed every day to go somewhere else where they feel that love, right? Now that love's going to wane there too. What we try to do is instead of waiting for you to do that, we try to make sure you're loved at Gables every day. And so you're less likely to answer those other opportunities.
That's phenomenal. And I know a lot of organizations might be thinking, well, Jill and Philip, we're in a COVID world right now. People are not moving, they're staying put, they're just hoping that they keep their job. But from my experience, that's not what I'm seeing. I see tons of people on LinkedIn every single day moving. We've got millions of organizations around the globe that have excellent workplace cultures who are actually hiring, right? This isn't affecting all industries the same. And so now is not the time to rest on your laurels and think that employee recognition doesn't matter. It has always been important. It will always be important. And I believe now it's more important than ever, especially since, people have been affected on what's going on in 2020. So the importance of really lifting people up, inspiring them, motivating them, appreciating them, acknowledging them, and thanking them. There's never been a more important time for that.